we will go back to that.
I wasn't aware of that.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm passing out these flyers to the council members because unfortunately, sometimes we have to have, hang tight for just a minute and I'll have you come up in just a second, Rochelle. Thank you. From time to time, we have to have uncomfortable conversations. And sadly, this isn't going to be the only time we talk about this. So we had a flyer that is appearing in property tax notice statements this week that I think we need to talk about. And just as a heads up, I'm working on an ordinance change to ensure that we don't have things like this happen again, where elected officials are potentially using county taxpayer-funded resources to help in their campaigns. And Ann will be seconding my ordinance change, so we'll be bringing that back in the next few weeks. But since tax notices with an insert that looks like a campaign flyer is hitting most mailboxes this week, which is the same week as ballots, I thought it would be really important for us to at least have a discussion on this today, mostly for the public's benefit. I know several of you have told me you've had people comment too on receiving this and trying to understand what's going on. In the 10 years I've been on the council, I've never had to ask an attorney, is this considered electioneering until now? And even if something is legal because it doesn't say, please vote for me in it, it's very concerning. So a few reasons why I'm concerned, because this looks like it's helping in Rochelle Hobbs' campaign for recorder this year. First of all, according to the attachments in my property tax statement that came by email, the front is the one with Rochelle's picture and name prominently displayed and an explanation of what she does. And it's the back side that says sign up for Property Watch. The second issue is Senator Harper's bill said that the treasurers were the ones to send the Property Watch info. The county has had Property Watch going on for several years now, yet conveniently the recorder has decided to advertise it in the weeks leading up to her reelection campaign. The third issue I see with this is the recorder's office projected revenue is lower than anticipated, yet they also have contra to meet in an already tight budget year. And yet they seem to have money for a slick, full color, two-sided flyer. So I have a few questions I want to ask on this. The first is, who created the artwork for the flyer? Who paid for the design and printing of the recorder's flyer and the additional expense to insert it into the tax notices? Secondly, where did this money come from and who was it paid to? Third, did they get bids for a one-sided flyer and one color, which would have taken care of explaining the Property Watch information? And fourth, why is the recorder doing this instead of the treasurer? So I have a few people. I'd love to have the recorder and treasurer come up and answer these in a moment. But first, I want to turn a moment over to Senator Harper, who actually wrote this bill, and have him just talk about the intent of the bill and what other counties are doing, if you'd be willing, Senator Harper. And then I'd love, Chairwoman, if we could hear from the other two to just answer those questions.
Okay.
Thank you.
I normally don't appear before the county council on issues. It's most often you guys come to me for different items, and appreciate we were working with Senator Bennion on that other issue in the canyons. That is important. The bill that I drafted was a result of a number of constituents who came to me saying, we've heard that there could be title theft, things recorded against a property. We don't know what they are. I did some research on it, and in the meantime, over the last about 18 months, there's been groups that have been advertising specifically on the radio saying, hey, for a monthly fee, come with us, pay a fee, and we will give you notice if there's something there. I started looking around at what other states have, and they came up and they said, well, there's counties that do a notice of when something is recorded on the property. I then instructed staff, after I'd opened a bill file, to go through and start investigating this. I made it a public bill file, and after I had kind of the skeletal bones of that, somebody from League of Association of Counties came and said, hey, by the way, Salt Lake County is already doing that. And I said, that's great. I didn't know about it, neither did these 8 to 10 people in my Senate district. And so I contacted the recorder and worked with, found out what she was doing. And then I took a little bit of what she had and put it into my bill, which was, basically crafted. The bill was specifically designed, if you look at the instructions in 59.2, it's within the property tax section of the code. It directs the treasurer to go through and provide notice. And in discussion with the Association of Counties, it was the intent that it would be something simple, not very expensive, but whatever the county chose to do. And if you take a look at what the majority of the other counties who have already started this, for example, is Uinta counties. Okay, this is all their tax notice, and then down here above where the taxes go is a statement of how you go through and prevent fraud on your property, and here's the process and the website and things like that. That's what I discussed with the counties. I have had some people contact me as well saying it appears that what has been inserted in the tax notice goes beyond what you requested, and I'm not here to cast any aspersions or that. It's just a little bit concerning that something of that nature was inserted. It was a black and white or single page thing here. Here's how you do it. That's a different issue. But Councilmember Winder asked me to come in and share some of my thoughts of the history and where I came in with this. And my intent is to go through and make sure that people's property rights are preserved, and that they have the ability to go through and know if something is fraudulently recorded on their property. And that's it.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, come on up, please. Thank you.
Thanks for being here, and I'm happy to go through my questions again
Yeah,
since
feel
I
free
rattled
to.
them off pretty quick. So
So I'll
Thank
probably
you.
make-
I actually, can
wanna
I?
go first?
Yeah, I have a prepared statement.
Okay, because I'm the one that asked her if she
Yeah,
wanted to. be
I
on
have a
it, so.
prepared statement. I want to take a moment to directly address the inclusion of the Property Watch informational insert in the 2024 tax notices. This topic is on your agenda, but I will take this moment to provide context ahead of our discussion. I hope everyone here is familiar with Property Watch, a free notification service that I designed and implemented in 2019. After being elected, I worked closely with Senator Karen Main on this initiative to better inform homeowners of recorded changes to their property, namely owners wanting to confirm their mortgage loans were paid in full and they owned their homes outright. However, I quickly became aware of predatory companies running commercial and mail ads for a similar service. These ads targeted some of our most vulnerable community members, our seniors. These companies were promising to lock and monitor home titles to prevent fraud, using scare tactics to convince seniors that their homes could be stolen if they didn't sign up and pay steep fees, while most already live on fixed incomes. It has only become more important to me that property owners know about the Property Watch service. For the past 4 years, my team and I have been urging Salt Lake County property owners not to fall for these fees and to use our free service instead. I also shared the Property Watch program with my colleagues in other counties so they too could offer this vital service to their communities. Due to the program's success and the significant rise of title fraud cases in the real estate industry, the Utah legislature decided to require all county recorders to offer similar services and to ensure all property owners are made aware of them. The informational insert included in the property tax notice this year is Salt Lake County's implementation of Senate Bill 165, Recording Notice Requirements Amendments, which was sponsored by Senator Harper and Representative Stenquist. The bill passed with unanimous support in both chambers, underscoring the Utah legislature's shared commitment to protecting property owners and raising awareness of serious scams like title fraud. Per the bill's requirements, county recorders must announce property alert systems for the next 3 years in the annual tax notices, beginning in 2024, again in 2025, and finally in 2026. The goal is to ensure property owners are aware of this free government service meant to keep them informed about any documents recorded against their properties. This year, my team and I originally considered adding a few lines of text directly onto the tax notice itself. However, the treasurer's office counseled us that this route would likely be difficult for recipients to notice and to read. We initially considered the smaller format due to budget concerns, but after a careful second review, we found that we could cover the cost this year without impacting other operations. Additionally, upon treasurer staff advice, we determined that an insert would be far more effective. This decision was made because inserts are more noticeable than fine print, and in the spirit of SB 165, it's to encourage signups for Property Watch, something I believe is best achieved through clear, accessible information. The insert was designed in-house to match the marketing materials we use during community outreach, including visits to county libraries and senior centers where Property Watch is particularly critical. My picture was included in the insert and is included in Property Watch, data services, and other Office of the Recorder designs and materials, because I believe it's important for residents to recognize and feel connected to their elected officials and to be able to identify the duties that different elected officials perform. I want them to feel assured this service is offered by a trusted, legitimate source, the county recorder. There was no special request from or treatment granted to me in the creation and inclusion of this insert. Other elected offices have used this method to share important information with the public because it works. The return on our investment is outstanding. Since the electronic tax notices went out on October 1st, we have had more than 2,000 registrations for Property Watch. That's more signups in the first 2 weeks of October than January through September of this year. Let's note the median home price in Salt Lake County is around $500,000. For just under $10,000 paid out of my budget, invested in this insert, hundreds of millions of dollars worth of property value in Salt Lake County have an added level of security against fraud. This is an incredible feat for Salt Lake County's good governance. I'm glad to share this success with all of you. Paper tax notices have also gone out, and I would be happy to make a report to this body after a couple of weeks with the most up-to-date data. In closing my remarks, I must emphasize that the council's attorney and the district attorney's office have already addressed this topic, both confirming that there is no inappropriate use of county resources involved with the insert. The sole purpose of the insert is to promote Property Watch, a service designed to protect our residents and their property from fraud. I appreciate your attention, and I look forward to continuing our efforts to protect the interests of Salt Lake County property owners. And if I may add, if we were to go with what was originally going to be allowed on the tax notice, you can see at the bottom of the fourth paragraph, that was the information about Property Watch. I don't think seniors were going to be able to notice the bottom of the fourth paragraph in fine print when they have an insert that is in this color work, the size of a bookmark.
Thank you. I don't think any of us disagree with what you've said about Property Watch. It's great that we have this service, and that's not really what this is about. What this is about is, if this was all about Property Watch, why didn't you do a single side, which would have saved significant tax dollars, and just had the Property Watch info instead of your info on the other side? If you hadn't done a photo, you would have been able to do it in one or two colors instead of full color, which would have been half the cost.
Yeah, and
So that's what I think we're trying to understand as the budget authority is we
Yes.
want to understand, we didn't allocate funds for this in your budget.
yes,
We've got a tight budget year. You have a contract to meet. We're trying to understand, where did the fund, how much was this?
$9,640
And where
that we
did-
paid for
And where did that come from?
from my budget. And meeting with the CFO, I was directed to, going forward, have this come out of my budget.
And which part of your budget did this come out
Operations,
of?
I can have Will speak to that part.
It was operations under expend. So we have several line items where there is a little bit of underspend because we're not going to get to that limit. We're not going to exceed as we're mandated to do so. So we were able to use that underspend to be able to cover this cost.
So you're going to be able to meet your contra then, even with this
Yes,
expense?
we are going to meet the
That's-
contra, and that is underspend. We have been we've followed your direction. We've tightened our belts. We're being very fiscally conservative. And yes, we will be able to meet the contract, and we had money to be able to cover that cost.
So I'm curious why this, in the legislation, it said that the treasurer is the one who needed to put this out. Wayne, do you want to talk to that a little bit?
Yeah. In the past few years, we've had legislature approach us and the auditor about putting things on our notice. And what we've found is by putting things on our notice that are small, nobody sees them. I mean, I would put it as a saying that I used to say, it's useless as a screen door on a submarine. Remember, we used to say that? People in Idaho had a different term relating to bulls, if I remember right. But we have found that putting on there, you would receive no response. It's basically worthless. And so my suggestion to the recorder's office is if you really want this to be noticed, it's not going to be noticed on my property tax. It's going to, if you do an insert, similar to what we did, if you remember as a council, we approved and had this go out with the auditor's valuation notice last year. And the reason we did that was so that people would see it. If you put it on our notice, they're not going to be seeing it. I don't know what the response you would see would be 1/10 of 1/10 of the response that you would see. So my only comment to her was, if you want people to see it, don't put it on our notice. The notice is worthless. Screen door on a submarine. Put it in a flyer that is noticeable that people will see. And the two requirements I had: number one, that they paid for it; number two, that it met the statute, which Matt Hurst from the State Tax Commission reviewed and said, yes, this meets. So that's where I came from.
Thanks.
Okay, I have a question for you because I know we actually asked for some information for county programs to go out last time. And we actually funded that from the council, found the money, and we funded that from the council budget specifically. None of us put our pictures on it. None of us did those type of things on it. Do you know what I mean? Because it was called, and we could have put a picture of the whole council on it if we'd wanted to, right? And I look at this is all that was needed. This is just the same information. So I don't understand why we didn't just do a one pager, because that is a lot cheaper. And I don't understand where the need for the other side was. If you look at this one side right here, that is all you needed for Property Watch. It's all there. The QR code, the information, the website, everything's here. The back side is what doesn't look right. And so that's what I'm struggling with, because I am now getting calls too now on this. And
actually, that's the front side. Rochelle
this
is the
is-
front,
yes,
according
I'm
to the
just saying,
attachment. Yeah.
this doesn't have to, this should have been, Property Watch should have been the front side. If that's what we're aiming at, that's what it should have been. So I just, whether it's legal or not, it's definitely unethical in my book. So,
Well, Madam Chair, may I,
And I have a comment as well.
go ahead.
we could sit here and talk about spilled milk all day,
I know.
but I would suggest that maybe a couple of volunteers from the council get together and write up language that.
We're working on that.
We're actually working on that.
Okay.
yeah.
Well, that seems to solve the problem. Is that correct?
That will in the future. It's troubling now the week that ballots are dropping, and we're now getting people saying, what are you council members doing allowing this to happen?
Well, I
And so
think
we
the
want to make
answer
sure
is
they know we're working on
fixing
this.
that problem
Yeah.
now. And I know we've got Natalie back here.
Yeah, we need to go to
Time's
that,
at 1
so.
o'clock, so
I have one.
we ought to move on.
I have a
I had
comment.
one thing I think.
Hold on just a second.
And I also have my hand up too.
Okay. We're out of time really quickly, so here's what we're gonna do. If you can do it in like 30 seconds each, I'll go to Ann, then we'll go to Suzanne, and then we'll go to Sheldon.
Oh, and
Okay.
then my chief deputy would like to make a comment too.
Okay, well, you've covered everything. Is there something that you're gonna cover that she's not covered?
Yeah, I'd like to respond to your comment about the double-sided and cost. I don't believe there was any additional cost to have it double-sided, and the actual price tag ended up.
There was when we actually looked at doing
It's-
ours.
It is.
Okay,
It's
the
There
price
was.
tag- The price tag that came back was actually lower than what was initially quoted to us. And the printer that it went through was through the treasurer's printer.
I just know when we were looking at it for ours, one-sided was cheaper. I mean, that was very clear, so. Okay, go ahead.
I wanted to thank Amy and Lori for bringing this forward. Within 1 hour of our meeting last week, I had 2 texts from League of Women Voters asking why we were changing and allowing electioneering to go out in a public notice. My phone, I received an email that my phone at the county was completely full. They were calls about this, and I started receiving calls at home asking why the county was allowing electioneering for an election in a public notice. So there is a large perception by the public who is watching how we spend our money, asking why we're allowing this.
Okay. Well, I would just like to say, it sounds like the district attorney's office looked at this. There's not a violation of election law. Mitch commented on this last week as well, that it didn't violate from his take laws. But one thing that I'm hearing from residents is the concern about like crimes and fraud, which I think letting folks know like who this is coming from is very helpful. I've heard from residents that they're getting very official looking forms in the mail that are actually a scam trying to look like government documents. Oh, there's an example.
Yeah,
So
it looks like it
like,
actually came
this
from
has Salt Lake
Recorder's
County
Office.
public information on it. This looks very official. So I think having a face of an elected official that's trusted, there's actually validity to that, to helping overcome some of the fraud and the scams that we're seeing that are harming some of our most vulnerable residents. So look, I think this is tricky. I'm glad you worked together to do this, to help residents get this information to protect their property. And I hope we can move forward because we have a lot of very important issues that our county is facing, and we're in the middle of budget season, and I hope to move forward to more substantive issues.
Sheldon.
Yeah, I'll keep it brief. Appreciate the comments that everybody's made. The one thing that I looked at this and saw that really raised concern for me, we have in code that it says we have to have uniformity in the colors and the branding.
Yes.
And these colors I've never seen used in the county at all. The yellow and the blue, matter of fact, they look a lot like your campaign website colors. So that is a big concern for me. So I'll leave it at that. I know we've had a lot of conversation, but that we do have specific policy that says we follow the uniformity of the county colors, policies, and likeness, and they should follow that same pattern.
I'll just wrap up by
go
just
ahead.
saying we'll be bringing forward some language. Ann and I will be in the next few weeks, so we can keep you all informed on that. Thank you very much for being here, you guys.